All right. Hello and welcome to the Fresh Black Coffee, and with my dear friends and cohorts, the Daves, D&D, Daredevil, David Arnett,
a double Dave day,
and of course David Van.
That's me,
the heartbeat of the program. Hey, we're very glad to have you with us today. There's a lot of stuff to get into, and with three of us, it's going to be even more to get into. So we'll get right into it. So, David, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Haven't seen you in a little bit.
Well, I'm glad to be here.
Good. And so I prefer to start with you, give you as much time as possible, because your online newspaper and your other online presence is very, very important and always deals with really fresh stuff. So why don't you tell us what the top issues that you're dealing with?
Well, I have really come to enjoy writing on Substack. And Substack is a platform for authors where they can offer paid and free subscriptions. And like any parent with two children, I love both subscribers, free and paid equally, almost. And am delighted to have that reach. We've got about 3,200 in Oklahoma and beyond that read the Substack email as it comes out. And most people like news delivered to them nowadays. Yeah. But we put up, or I put up a story Friday.
Well, before we get into that, tell our audience how they can subscribe or get the free or subscription.
Okay. It's arnett.substack.com.
So
ARNETT.substack.com is the URL. The name of the site, and it's kind of funny because they wanted you to name it. And so I named it Straight Up, which is an oil-filled term. It's kind of a term a lot of people have used in the past to say,
a strong gusher
up there. It's all going the way it's supposed to, talking straight up. But the story Friday was public school warnings, public school parent warnings. And it talks a lot about how parents need to be aware when they enroll their child of the paperwork they are given to sign, especially if it gives the school system permission in various areas. Now, one of the current controversies, and at first it sounds wonderful to have health care available in schools. We want to take care of the children. It'd be so fun to take care of all the children. We'll just make them happy and all that. But you see, the problem with that is they may get instruction on gender affirming care, or if they're a rowdy, precocious child, not that any of us would resemble that in any way, shape, or form, maybe school officials would decide their mental health required Ritalin or some other things.
Or to get rid of a uterine growth.
Or whatever. But the issue is, do we really trust the educational system in Oklahoma to be our medical provider when they can't provide reading, writing, and arithmetic in education? Let's focus on the primary stuff. Now, all of that was kind of fun, but the story also I started with the Constitution of Oklahoma and what they say about public school and separate schools. Provision shall be made for the establishment of a system of public schools, which shall be, and it goes on there, but it talks about that that the instruction shall be in English. But I also had a report and documented it that the Zarro International School in Tulsa, the Henry Zarro, which is a Spanish immersion school, had a grandparent reach out and talk to me about their child now in the third grade that cannot read English. Now, wait a minute. Teach them Spanish all you want to,
Right.
but English is kind of critical for this.
Sure.
So that's kind of an interesting thing. But on the opt-out, there is actually a form that I posted. Deborah Campbell was the writer who's been very concerned about the medical outreach of, and this is Ryan Walters, and this is the Department of Human Services and the education. I mean, this is pretty much the entire establishment thinking, oh, it's wonderful for us to, take control of a child's medical needs and history. But anyway, there's an opt-out letter that Deborah Campbell put together that is available on that site that enables parents to notify the school that they have concerns on various programs and want to be notified or do not want their child participating in those. And we really started the piece with saying Oklahomans are going to have to fix education because officials, and I don't care what party you're talking about, have failed miserably to do so since 1907 when we began to be a state. Now, I'm just tired of it. Teach phonics, teach arithmetic, teach the students, give them the tools
Basic skills
to feed themselves,
right.
because I don't want to feed them as they go and grow older.
Yeah, I remember when Janet Barisi was superintendent of education.
Yeah.
And her statement was from grades 1 through 3, they learn to read. From 4th on, they read to learn.
Yeah.
And if you bypass that first 3 years, you're stunted for the rest of your life.
Well, something kind of interesting on that. We actually, during her term or about that, pushed through a regulation to teach phonics. Mm-hmm. But what happened? The educational establishment, those all-knowing, all-seeing, all-powerful doctrinaires of pontification, decided that wasn't much fun to teach. Mm-hmm. Repetition.
Yeah.
They just didn't like that. That took them away from their identity politics that they really wanted to push as an ideology, and so we slipped away from it. Rather than oppose the professionals in the field, we allowed them to move away. The state of Mississippi, which was down at the bottom of education rankings.
Yeah, they made us feel good about ourselves.
Yeah, they were at the bottom. They did not waver. They continued to push phonics. And now they're in, as I understand it at last reading, in the top 5 of education systems. Mm-hmm. They're looking at really good outcomes. The South overall, Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, have focused on education. And now the South is seeing gains that the North never thought they would see.
Yeah.
And it's time for us to get back to that.
Yeah. In addition to the things you listed out there, one of the things Tom McKay actually told me about, his kids were going to the public schools and he signed them up for the next year. And so what's that? They said, well, we got to sign your kids up for free lunches. No, we take care of our own. And after it's about the second week of school, he tells his kids, they're getting ready to go on Mondays. Oh, let me get you your lunch money. No, we don't need it anymore. We're getting free lunches. He's furious.
Same happened with me.
Yeah, and he found out that they use that formula. What percent are getting reduced or free lunches? Get a whole bunch more federal funding.
Right.
Does that jive with what you've researched?
Well, let me just add that same thing happened with us.
Yeah.
My son came home. And my wife wanted to make him lunch, and he said, "Oh no, they feed me at school." She said, "What?" And they had signed him up. Is Tom married to a minority person of Hispanic?
She's Hispanic.
Okay, there you go. So what they do, they take, if you're a minority or part minority student, and they see it, they automatically give you the free lunch.
Yeah,
because they assume that you've got to be in need.
The funny thing is, she's, I think, a medical professional. He's a stay-at-home dad.
Oh, I know. No,
she's the educated one,
right?
You know?
So, but I just wanted to say, because I know exactly, because that's exactly what happened. Also. And so we serve notice. No, he will not be getting the free
and that's
lunch.
the thing.
And that was Union. That was Union School District at that time.
Uses reduced lunches as a determiner of other funding that they get.
HUD money.
They want to pad those numbers up. David, does that jive with what you're hearing?
Well, yes, and I also think it's racist.
Sure.
It's the racism of low expectations.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, one other thing in that, I also had a chance to talk to an old friend of mine by the name of Skip Steele, who was a former city councilor.
I remember him. Yeah.
And we got to talking about education and healthcare and all of that. And he goes, David, Tulsa did this a decade ago. Now, it's also included in that story a little bit of a note that the city of Tulsa apparently gave, according to Skip, $10 million to the Union Public Schools in order to help them establish a medical clinic for its community connections or something, but it's 12020 East 31st Street, right beside an elementary school. And in fact, if you look at it, it looks very clear that it was the Union School property that this health center was built on. Now, I understand that there is some confusion about what services they provide to students or families, but the impression is in that part of Tulsa that it's a minority outreach kind of thing.
East Tulsa, yeah.
It's not really designed for others other than minorities. Now, my question is the city of Tulsa going to give $10 million in other areas for this to be built? And is that where we wanted the money to go? Now, what was interesting is, and this was 2015, 2016, according to Skip, he said back in the day, he tried to find documentation of this transfer of money and could not find it.
Man.
Now, I put out a call to the union communications office, and being good bureaucrats, they failed to return the call prior to deadline. But, they don't really realize yet. I'm a tad bit persistent, and I'll be on them as time goes on. But once again, this is, if they feel there is a compelling reason, a bureaucrat will ignore, hide, deflect, and not be clear about what they're trying to accomplish. And I'm tired of that.
Sure.
They do not own us.
Sure.
They work for us.
Right. Now, have you checked into whether they're providing contraceptive care?
No, not yet, but I'm going to be working. Well, yeah, I mean, but the question, if you have, in July of this year, the chubby little governor of Illinois, Pritzker, signed a bill that that said there was going to be in Illinois, there will be beginning this year, mental health screenings for every student between the 3rd and the 12th grade. Mental health screenings? What do they know about mental health? I've met too many teachers. Good mental health is not necessarily something they're attached to.
And I don't want my public school, who are not professionals. I mean, HEPA privacy means something to me.
One would think.
Yeah. And, you want the office secretary having this, she can't lose her license for divulging that information. I only want that. Yes, I only want that information in the hands of people who I've selected who can face the end of their career if they violate that.
Well, apparently we've lost individual responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
We've lost, I mean, they really want to manage us as their minions of indoctrination or for indoctrination.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really just tired of it.
Sure.
I'm just up to.
Sadly, not enough Americans are tired of it. And we see this growing. It was Bork. You remember Judge Bork?
Yes.
In his book, he wrote a book, Slouching Towards Gomorrah.
I have that book.
Yeah.
I like it.
Oh, yeah. And he ended basically, and this is what, 30 years old, 30, 40 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and how he was able to so eloquently and greatly be able to show where we're headed. And we're about there. I mean, that's the problem, that with these laws and rules and the more authority and rights we're giving to school districts and things like that, we're in trouble. We need to we need to stand up and say,
Well, and the perfect realization of all of Judge Bork's warning was Barack Obama. Because he really came from academia with a purpose to destroy what he believes to be the colonialist power.
Right.
He was a socialist. He embedded lawyers of evil ideology at the DOJ and at the and everywhere he could put deep state operatives. And but here's the funny thing that has just been released nationally. They have discovered when Russiagate started, and it was December 9th after the election in 2016, but before Trump took office. And Obama literally took a report that says there was no Russian interference and demanded that report be rewritten to say there was. Now, whether we prosecute Obama, I don't really care. He's already proved himself to be a failure to his own communities and to the nation as a whole. But all of those spy chiefs and FBI chief, Clapper and Brennan and Comey and all of those people who with full knowledge broke the Constitution by lying to the people, broke their duty to serve America by lying and promoting a controversy that did not exist. Those people are guilty of sedition, if not treason, and they should be prosecuted. If you can't stand up to your boss and say that is illegal, that is immoral, and I'm not doing it, then you're not worthy of employment, in my opinion.
Well, they didn't stand up because they were all behind it. They were all involved. It was what they were. What's his name? Brennan. It was the worst. I mean, the guy basically is a communist.
If his mouth is moving, he's lying to you.
Before we get too far off your original story, you're an old-fashioned investigative journalist. They don't make them like you anymore. But
that may not be a compliment, but thank you very much.
But here's where I'm going with that. Getting leads, getting people to, tip you off to things. It's very helpful. How do people do that for you? What's the best way to reach you?
Well, I've been doing TulsaToday.com since 1996. I joke that it is living proof I need a 12-step recovery program to exit journalism. But I have, I've been kicking tires and lighting fires for so long that people call me randomly on all kinds of things that kind of surprise me. And yes, some of them are not newsworthy. Some of them are very newsworthy.
Yeah.
So
on TulsaToday.com, there's your contact info there.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I've had my telephone number has been public for 40 years.
Okay.
I am incredibly surprised when I go to some of my other fellow journalists' newsrooms, and they have security at the gate, and you have to, they have to, breeze you in, or and I'm going, I'm out in public all the time.
Yeah.
I am delighted there hasn't been a Tulsan yet that has shot me dead, but still, generally, I'm not going to hide behind security or change what I believe to be or restrict what I believe to be American freedom.
Yeah.
To talk, to think, to interact, to meet, to gather, and discuss the issues. I'm sorry, but there is no other option. If we do not exercise freedom, we lose it. We fail our country.
Yeah.
Now, I believe that God calls us to be involved, and I am involved as a Christian, and I believe in those standards and try and live them. I don't preach them. I'm trying to live them. It's harder that way. It's easier to preach it. But if we just cannot stop, we cannot allow our desire to be non-confrontational to let insanity beat the bloody pulp out of common sense. Yeah. And that's happened for the last 25 years.
Can I switch? We're more than a week into the story on Joe Krylacek. I've read your initial write-up of it.
Tell our audience in case.
Joe Krylacek has been a pretty impressive emergency management director, and he has some personal issues. And it sounds it's bigger.
It's a specific charge that's in public. He had apparently a fetish for child porn.
Okay.
Allegedly, that's what's being alleged. That's what's
that's going to be determined in a court of law, but that was what he was arrested for. The arrest report is public. It is sad because everyone who knew Joe was shocked and deeply dismayed, including his wife, who is now, as I understand it, filed protective orders against him.
Yeah.
He had a career. He no longer has that.
Yeah.
And I know the man. Now, here's something else interesting. He was interviewed and hired by both the county and the city. He was not a county employee, nor was he a city employee. He actually had his own fiefdom. He was the emergency management director. So during floods or hurricane or tornadoes, and even COVID, his office was active in serving this area. Now, grace and forgiveness is out there, but you also have to acknowledge when you make mistakes. And this was a serious mistake on his part. How bad it was, I don't know. That will be up to a court of law and a jury of his peers to decide.
So here's where I'm going. Last Saturday morning, I'm coming in, and KRMG has on their bottom of the hour update a lot more information. But then I mentioned, hey, here's what I heard on KRMG. I go back to study it over the last weekend, and none of that ever got printed. I couldn't even pull up the newscast where I heard it. But they went into great detail, including some of his own admissions, evidently in an interrogation room. And I'm wondering, where did KRMG get this?
I do my best to dot the I's and cross the T's on my work. I cannot speak for any other news organization.
Yeah, evidently there's some found video from in the home of sexual activities that happen, and a allegation of incest is involved there. But then I can't find anything. And I'm like, KRMG, if you really want to get out there and say it, then print it, because now you got different people saying
they're a radio station. They don't print. Now, granted, they have a website. They can put some words up there. But here's the other point. I am tired of people being tried in the media.
Right.
It's time for them to be tried in court. Now, I haven't done a follow-up. I have thought about a follow-up because managing staff in these various fiefdoms. I mean, the emergency center group is one, but, city county library, city county health department, the airport board. I mean, all of these operate semi-autonomously.
Right.
And oversight, once you get into a job like that, you pretty much are able to write your own ticket and the ticket of those people you hire to work with
River
you.
Parks is another one.
By the way, I can't believe we have how many park departments?
Yeah.
You've got the city park department, you got the county park department, you've got river parks, and then, well, apparently the city owns the gathering place, but they have their own management of the gathering place. I want to do that. I want to give my home to the city of Tulsa so that they can maintain it and I can still control it and live in it. Now, that's a Kaiser deal if I've ever seen a Kaiser
you won't have
deal.
to mow the weeds either.
What a concept.
That's funny.
And I can set up an entryway full of weeds and call it wildflowers.
Are you alluding to some particular property here in Tulsa that happens to be on Riverside?
You mean the Riverside Raceway? Yes. Yes, in the tunnels. But, that's so funny. You hire people from Germany, apparently. Yeah. Because, there just isn't enough that Buffy and Bobby would accept in Tulsa or Oklahoma. We have to have someone from far away tell us what's pretty. Not to talk about the crying statue of Hamburger Hill or whatever they call it. But anyway, you hire experts from out of the country to get the flowers and fauna and all of that in the gathering space. And so they pick these wildflowers because they think that's cool. In Oklahoma, we call those weeds.
Yeah,
and we usually mow them down after they bloom so they won't be ugly.
Yeah, it's a gathering place for weeds.
Yes. Yeah. And in that neighborhood, there may be more weed use than we ever suspected.
So let me get back to the original thought of in bringing this in. So originally, remember, we had all of these independent private donations for this place, but as we predicted back on the Pat Campbell show 10 years ago, it's now being paid for by the city. There's parts of it that are still they're getting subsidies and basically welfare.
Well, I hate to mention KFAQ because at that time I was on KRMG and we were competitors back in the day. If you would have asked me, though, I would have told you that apparently there was about $2 or $3 million worth of infrastructure work the city had to pay for to get the gathering place there. Because, as I understand it from other people, George Kaiser likes to have things that are visible with his name on it and doesn't really care about the infrastructure so much. So the city of Tulsa had to do that. in order to make that happen. I don't know, but I had always suspected if Phil Lakin had won the position of mayor, that he could have led us into changing the name of the city and the flag into Kaiserville. Yeah.
There you go.
We could have done that.
But back to the issue with the park or parks.
Yes, sir.
That basically that's supposed to be a private park, but somehow they've finagled a way to get city funds to take care of it.
Well, it's kind of like the Grand River Dam Authority. They're public when they want to be, and it's in their best interest, and they're private when they want to be, and when it's in their best interest. Yeah, that's a sweet deal. I want to be kind of half on, half off of government as long as the money keeps flowing in. But the funny, as long as you can control the thing, you don't need to own the thing.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I live off of 91st Street between Mingo and Memorial. And they've been working now since the beginning of the year, maybe even started late last year, on widening the road. And it's taking forever. I mean, literally, we're talking 9 months, maybe more. So, what's weird about the whole deal is that, and this goes back to, again, the Pat Campbell show when I was there, and there was always this cry of keep money in state, hire in-state contractors. And to me, at the time, I didn't think about it enough to say, no, that's not the way you do things. It's the lowest bidder, the person that's going to get the job done the best, the quickest. Because in the end, there's days and weeks on end that you will drive down there and you got just equipment sitting there. Mm-hmm. It's in 2 lanes and not just 2 lanes, but they've got cones on the one side that keep you from running off into a ditch. And I think when you do that, you paint yourself into a corner when you say only local contractors can bid on this. Sure. Because now the local contractors know that I don't have to bid against somebody from Indiana or Missouri, Illinois any longer, and can pretty much, and we connive to set the price, and we don't have to work that hard because they're not going to go somewhere else.
Here's the racket. Because all those bond elections have fundraising going on with them. Guess who contributes to that?
Mr. Kaiser.
The people who want the contract for the paving and stuff. Right. And it only makes sense. It's a rigged deal. Right. The contracts go to the people who put the money into it. That's my theory. I don't know. Maybe I'm off the wall.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, we have painted ourselves into a corner by only being able to utilize certain in-state contractors. And if we can, local contractors. And that's not necessarily the best way to do things. You go with the people that have a proven record. I don't care if they're from Mexico. For example, in Uganda, when they were rebuilding after the devastation of Amin and Obote, where did they go? Italy. They brought in Italian road builders because they're the best in the world at doing highways and road construction. They didn't say, oh, no, it has to be somebody from our country or our continent. And we have backed ourselves into a corner by saying we can only hire local contractors. So anyway, that's just my point. And I'm seeing it because there's no reason that thing should sit there that long. In Germany, they will throw up Holland. They will throw a road up like that in 3 weeks. And we've been there now for, say 8-9 months, and it's ridiculous, maybe longer. I'm sorry, Dave, go ahead.
Well, there's a couple of things. First of all, is that a city project or a county project? on roads, because sometimes
that is a city.
That is a city project.
Because we're now, north of 101st or 111th.
Yeah, 91st Street. Yeah, it's a city street.
Well, and way down there in deep South Tulsa, we Midtown people don't always go out to see what you're doing in the wealthy elite neighborhoods.
Yeah, there you go.
South Tulsa.
Right.
By the way,
anyway, but
yeah, go ahead.
But let me. I want the highest value for every tax dollar spent.
Exactly.
And I don't care where the company is from. I want them to use quality materials and processes that produce a valuable final product that's durable and long lasting.
Right.
But I would much rather, if we had a mayor that with a clue, to focus on street building rather than his, dancing around the homeless issue, which is not a housing issue. It's a drug abuse and mental health issue.
Mm-hmm.
But, the Socialist Democrats haven't figured that out because they want to expand their employment base of other socialist Democrats.
And their voting base.
And their voting base and all of that. But, I have heard often that, and this was one of the Mayor Poindexter, otherwise known as G.T. Bynum, used to talk a lot. Well, a pothole has no party. But yes, it does. The approach to that pothole could be done by full-time employees, by contracted labor, by union employees, or by, subcontractors. So we gave the streets department, the street effort in Tulsa, $1 billion a few years ago. And their promise was that they would do a whole intersection so that we would not be going back and tearing up one thing to do another thing. So I'm not satisfied that they have spent that money well.
Right.
Yeah.
I would like to see a report on that, but apparently if you go to work for government, you're never held accountable for anything. Yeah. But that's another.
Yeah. And just on that, before I go to another thing, traffic engineering. It's horrible. I mean, it used to be, we had sensors when there's no cars, it doesn't change. I'm coming by your house over there by St. Francis, between Yale and Hudson. There's a traffic light to a driveway into the hospital. That's not a street.
Right.
We sat there for almost 2 minutes
with
waiting
nothing
for
coming.
And I think they've gone away from sensors to just randomly setting a clock.
Right.
But anyway, I wanted to say
who you need to bring in though, and to interview and to talk about is Paul Zachary. I believe he's still the city engineer.
I'm really impressed with him.
And he's a really good guy and is fairly dedicated.
He's not on the traffic light engineering part. That's a separate department. He designs the road constructions, and I've seen some impressive work where he's really got.
Well, my question though is, why would you have 5 different road construction projects going on at one time instead of all hands on deck? You throw everything at the one, get it done, then you move to the next one, get it done, the next one, get it done. I'm just coming from Europe, living in Europe. In fact, what they do in Europe, because there's so much traffic on the autobahns or the turnpikes, as we call them here, that what they do, they work at night. They'll start at 10 o'clock at night from 10 in the morning to 10 in the evening to 5 in the morning. And so when everyone is off the roads, pretty much, you can still go. You'll go in, there's lights, and man, they've got crews out there.
Mick Cornett was doing that in Oklahoma City about 8-10 years ago. I would go there, man, at night, they were working on 44 in the overnight hours. And you know what? It's actually cooler too.
Yeah, it is.
It's middle of the summer.
Right.
But I want to get to the private park thing. George Kaiser, I think, took a lesson from Occupy Wall Street. The reason they couldn't get rid of the disruption was there's this park called Zuccotti Park. I've been through there several times. Last time I was there, it's privately owned. And so he starts the Guthrie Green, first of all, private park. Well, a bunch of us with a Tea Party demonstration found out it's not so free speech as we thought it was, because and then he decides to do this other one. I'm a little bit nervous when it's not straight up city property.
I make a lot of jokes about George Kaiser's influence in Tulsa.
Mm-hmm.
And some of those were received well by his friends and some are not. I do appreciate his efforts, but I know that he has a passion for children. And the money he's put into education, I hope is spent well and is helping the kids.
Yeah, Head Start, for instance.
And Head Start and other kinds of things. By the same token, I don't have a complete understanding of his ideology. And ideology can be imposed from a very young age. And that's something that just makes me nervous.
But see, that's my idea and worry. Well, not worry anymore. I'm convinced of it because I've talked to people who used to work for his, Educare, that it's an ideological thing, that they're taking these young children and trying to already socially program them. With a certain, and the parents, because the parents are happy to, my kids are taken care of and so forth and so on. And then it's a twofold thing. And so basically what he's doing with all of these things, the other thing that really bugs me is, there's a big 60-minute deal about his philanthropy, how much he gives to philanthropy and charities and this. But if you look at every one of the charities, they all seem to come back to him in some way.
He learned that, I think, from George Kaiser, or not from George Soros. I'm sorry, I misspoke.
Right. No, exactly. You're right.
You throw a little money at something and then you get that money back.
Right.
That's the whole USAID cluster. And by the way, that organization used foreign aid from taxpayers in America to support the LGBT Center here in Tulsa. There was a story that was done on that, which explained, because I and some other reporters were looking into it, how that they could have an executive director embezzle $160,000 some odd and not call the police. How's that happen?
Yeah.
What a deal.
Because you don't want shame coming back to that other,
because it's not their money. It's not their money. They didn't have to raise it. They got it from Washington, and foreign aid money. Think about the concept: foreign aid money directed at Tulsa, Oklahoma, to change our culture because they didn't love God and country. And we apparently love God and country too much, so they wanted to embed more alternative lifestyles. Now, as a conservative, I don't care what anybody believes privately or what they do privately, but I do care greatly when they try and go after children and when they try publicly to change our culture. Fortunately, this November or November of 24, when Donald Trump won, we reset the narrative of common sense, establishing quantitative, objective truth for something that had been set aside, which is in governance for a long time. So, the country's reestablishing itself. Comedy is reestablishing itself. Thank goodness. Colbert is leaving.
Yeah.
more in his kind of vicious stupidity.
Kimmel is worse.
Yeah, well,
Or yeah, I don't know if he's worse,
I-
but he's just as bad at least.
I'm a great Gutfeld fan. I like watching the Gutfeld show on the evenings on Fox News because the humor is more it's trying to be funny regardless of ideology, but it's also based more right than left.
Yeah.
And that's a blessing.
The best at it is Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah.
He was a former cab driver, but the guy is one of the quickest and funniest people in the world. And he just nails the left. So, I mean, stuff you can't even think of. And he puts it out there,
No, not Jimmy Fallon.
No, Fallon.
Fallon.
He's Fox News guy.
Gotcha.
He was a former cab driver.
And actually, he's got his own show on Saturday nights.
Right.
Saturday.
Yeah. I heard him on the radio.
Yeah, he's on KRMG, part of the Fox deal.
Yeah.
And he's getting better. I have to admit, when I first heard him, or when he first kind of appeared, he had a ways to go, but he's getting
He was uncouth. Yeah. He was uncouth, and now he's a bit more couth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all need more couth.
Yeah, we all need more couth. But one thing that I want to say that, and I've been talking about this all the way back to the Pat Campbell show, is one of the things I see, one of the failings of conservatives is that we're too occupied with national issues and not enough with local. And that's how I believe Tulsa has been slowly transformed.
Sure.
I was invited to speak at a Type Rose meeting 10 maybe more years ago. And they were proudly announcing that Tulsa is the second most gay-friendly city in America.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's saying something. Second most gay-friendly city in America.
Well, our LGBT center was funded by foreign aid.
Well,
how many cities have gay and lesbian center or LGBT?
But this didn't happen, overnight. It's been building. And Type Rose is one of the most liberal, progressive organizations there is. I mean, it's just totally rife with.
By the way, they are the Chamber of Commerce for young people.
Right.
You know this.
Yes.
That started out, Young Professionals Group, that started out independently. And like any other independent group, when the chamber can get a hold of them, they bring it into the control.
The difference is that we've had issues with the chamber for some time, but it's like everything else. Every generation tends to go a little further, a little further, a little further. And so you may have the chamber with a degree of liberal progressiveness because it's to benefit them. But then the Type Rose now, so they're just a downright leftist organization and I'll say anti-American, anti-Jewish, and it's so funny because a lot of the funding comes from the Jewish community in Tulsa. And I was there. What's this head lady from the Muslim community? You know who she is, probably. Mm-hmm. Okay. Anyway, she's always quoted, when they need a Muslim to speak up for them. But anyway, she was there, and then it was this Hispanic guy,
which is kind of funny since women have no voice in the Muslim culture.
Yeah, it's right. Yeah, that's true. Is it Siddiqui?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, something's there. Anyway, did we talk about this before? So anyway,
a couple of times.
I'm at this meeting, and this Hispanic guy and she are talking. She's talking about the genocide in the Middle East, in Palestine. The genocide.
Not October 7th.
No, right. This was way, but we're talking 10 years ago or so.
Okay.
Anyway, and so she starts talking about this systematic genocide, and I remember we did talk about it because I told them, genocide. It's a family feud. Because they're all from Abraham. It's the same.
Yeah.
Both
sides. I'm his favorite child. No, you're. Right. No, I am.
Right. So we're not talking genocide, which is the extinguishing of a race. Mm. No, you're just getting your cousin. Yeah. And then this Hispanic guy started telling all these fibs about his children being discriminated against and persecuted in the Bixby schools. And I saw him, and I said, you're whiter than my wife. So how can you, you're full of crap, basically is what I told them, and they were just shocked. Everybody out there in the audience they were just shocked that I would be, but I have no tolerance for these people. Mm-hmm. I want it known. I have no tolerance for them because I can understand having a humanitarian bent in your person. I'm all for that. But when you just keep lying and making up stuff and trying to push bring it all back, this is what we're dealing with. Tulsa young professionals, the Chamber of Commerce and everything, they are driving this city into the ditch.
Eddie, I was your surrogate during the campaign last fall when the Type Rose had an event at the downtown library.
That,
and you, I think, spoke to another group here in the district.
It was East Tulsa.
Yes. And to well over 100. I and a bunch of campaign managers and candidates, total of maybe 30, got to get the attention of, I think, 15 people that wandered in and went down the basement. Type Rose would not exist if they weren't continually subsidized.
Exactly. Sure. Yeah. And it's funded by George Kaiser and the Chamber. I mean, that's basically where it's a leftist organization. One of the worst to expose some of this stuff that people aren't aware of. And these people are getting United Fund money. And but one of the worst is the YWCA. Unbelievable how messed up that organization is. It's far from Young Women's Christian Organization. No.
Or Young Men's.
Yeah. Well, that's the YMCA.
But both of them are.
Oh, no, I know. Oh, sure.
Yeah.
But not YMCA is not as bad as the YWCA. Their whole deal is women's lib and abortion.
Well, before it changed its name, but there was a Thornton Family Y on 51st Street. I think it's now the Tandy Y or something else, depending on who gave them money this week. But I was on the board for a while and suggested that there was this large open space that they had right there on 51st Street, basically raw land. And hey, maybe after the Tulsa Christmas Parade, since this is a Christian organization, you can invite some of the floats to park here before or after and get a little, attention, None of them like that. No. And they soon removed me off the board. I thought that was funny. But
how dare you mention Christian?
How dare you mention Christian in a Christian organization? But anyway, talking about local stuff, have you guys talked about Wagner County?
Yeah.
They have all kinds of things going on down there. Apparently their sheriff's office thinks they can get away with murder, literally. And they're being sued for it. Now, there's already one judgment where a woman in custody had a medical crisis. They didn't seem to take her medical condition seriously and didn't provide her insulin or whatever she needed, and she died. And the citizens are now having to pay off a judgment on that case. And there's another case where they pulled a young man over, and apparently there was some kind of report that he was under the influence of alcohol. So they treated his declarations of innocence dismissively and attacked him, physically broke all but 2 of his ribs, tased him a couple of times, as I understand the story, and he later died. And that family is not going to quit until they get another judgment. Now, those 2 cases were the basis for the citizen petition to get a grand jury. But the judge, being the arbitrator of all wisdom and truth, threw out that citizen's petition begging for a independent investigation. And so the citizens, being somewhat determined Okies, began to circulate the second petition, which I think is in process. But then the DA, Mr. Jack Thorpe, and others, the sheriff, started intimidating people that had signed the first petition or were attempting to. And our attorney general, something good I can say about Ginter Drummond, made a public declaration that DAs and sheriff and law enforcement officials were not going to intimidate citizens trying to get an official investigation of crimes within their county.
Right.
Yeah.
That's Wagner County. That's contiguous to Tulsa County. Are you kidding me?
Well, they're basically run by Tulsa people. I mean, who is Sheriff Elliott? Used to be a Tulsa police cop before he got elected out there. I mean, it's just
look. We've got to get media has got. I'm going to condemn us ourselves. We need to get out of the city of Tulsa. We need to get to Wagner. We need to get to Rogers. We need to get to Mays. And
we were talking
Multi
about
County.
this. Was it a year ago or 2 years ago on the other case? The what's his name?
Woolley.
The Woolley case.
Yes.
That was another one. Now I've heard another side to that whole story, but these other cases, that it's just like inexcusable. I mean, really, this stuff is just inexcusable.
Yeah.
And someone needs to look into it. Just look into the office. The thing that I don't understand with all of this, Chris Elliott continues to be reelected as sheriff. And people in Wagner County apparently aren't concerned enough to make that change at this point.
I think
it's getting, I'm sure it's approaching that.
You got to understand, there is a rule for electing people. And that is, if your representative is stealing $1,000 a month, then he's a crook. But if he's stealing $1,000 a month and giving you $200 a month, he's the best elected representative you could have.
Yeah.
Now, I dispute that and use that as a bad joke, not something I want to promote.
Right.
But that's really the problem.
Well,
If you do need friends, you do need advisors, you do need to gather supporters to be elected to office, as you well know. And you with your experience. By the same token, you cannot have people that are overseeing governance that have monetary motivations for themselves.
Yeah.
You
Conflict of interest.
And here's something, and I don't want to get us too far afield, but our founding fathers declared repeatedly that our form of government is wholly unacceptable for an immoral population.
Right.
If we are not moral people, we cannot maintain the republic. Now, I don't care what your morality is, what your religion is, whatever, but generally, honesty, forthrightness, doing the right thing, don't lie, steal, cheat, these kinds of basic things have to be universally accepted and called for. But where we have, I believe, let the ball slip is failing to shame. We need to shame perpetrators unmercifully.
Yeah. But see, I think the real problem goes back to what we've all heard, the root of all evil, money.
And so, I dispute that.
Okay, you can dispute it, but I'm telling you, it ends up getting back to money, which equals power.
Let me offer something else.
Okay.
I suggest the root of all evil is loneliness, not money.
Okay, explain.
You could have a lot of money and be lonely and miserable.
Okay.
There's all kinds of Hollywood stars and tech heads that we can illustrate that with. Money is nothing more than a way to keep score. It does not provide, it does not comfort you, but you can buy comfort. It does not entertain you, but you can buy entertainment.
But you can buy votes.
But, and maybe you can buy votes,
Yeah.
but hopefully not. But loneliness, and what we have done in the tech age is allow our social media to unsocialize us.
Mm-hmm.
We are now more isolated and more lonely, even though we have more tools to connect in more different ways. That's concerning. That's a fundamental, I think, issue.
Throw another one out there. Money, loneliness, power. The media has been corrupted, I believe, by its lust for power to influence politics. David, you entered into this career back in the 80s when Tulsa Tribune was a very respected, news operation. And really, I'd say all the commercial ones, Clayton Vaughn was a pain, but generally...
I liked him, actually. Okay. I really like Clayton.
Well,
and he's with the Historic Society now, as I understand it, and helping them. So,
but there are a few things he tipped the scale.
All right, we'll move on.
But the lust for power, you've watched the media change greatly, and I think we've lost something about the institution, the honor, the ethics.
May I suggest?
Go ahead.
A thought process on that. Where media began to fall apart is when it presumed that it could determine what was best for America.
It's arrogance.
And in other words, we went from just reporting the facts, which is my preference, and I still try and do today. Mm-hmm. Although I do insert sarcasm.
Yes,
sometimes.
You do. Thank you for being honest.
I do insert sarcasm. I can ridicule people with some degree of flair. But reporting just the facts, or even reporting the facts with humor and sarcasm, is different than thinking, this is what is true and just and right for America, so I'm going to push that narrative. We are the narratives we consume. Because here's the other part of this. In journalism, you cannot get out of college and go do something else and then come back to journalism because you can't afford it. If you go get a job anywhere else and realize what making a real living is, you will never go back to journalism, whether you got your degree in it or not. So the point is, you're seeing young people who went from a liberal indoctrination into a small town newspaper. And most small town newspapers begrudge the fact they're in a small town and they're a small newspaper or small TV station or small whatever, because everyone apparently, with some exceptions, and I hope I am one, most media are trying to gain the fame and the production skills that will allow them to be elevated into larger and larger markets until they get to LA or New York, and then they're the king of the hill.
But bottom line, it comes back to money and who is paying for your rise and your increase in volume, et cetera, et cetera. And sadly, the left has dumped more money into media than the conservatives have. Now it's starting to balance out a little bit. We're coming back, but still, ultimately, it ends up being about money and power. And then sometimes the two are totally interchangeable. You cannot have power today without money. It just doesn't work. Your voice, if you had, say, $1 million.
I am the exception to that rule.
Well,
if I have any influence whatsoever, it does not come from money, because I can pretty much get it.
But you said earlier how many subscribers or viewers you have, and it's nothing compared to the Tulsa World and many of these other blogs out there, which are not as informative or as good as yours, but they're there because you got somebody putting money into them and pushing them and promoting them. That's why I say money is still what has transformed us. And it's the fact that a lot of the liberals, I'll go back to this. Okay. I got into this with politicians. Okay. Conservative politicians always want to pay a person. So for example, if you're running for office, they will want to, for lack of a better term, buy a candidate. So you come to me and you say, well, what can you do for me? I think of T. Boone Pickens and some of these people. What can you do for me? It's all about that. Soros has a totally different method, which I think is a much better method. And I think conservatives should wake up to this. And I think Trump has awoken to it, and which helps him. But what they will do, they will buy the NAACP. They will buy the National Organization of Women. They will buy Planned Parenthood. They will buy, they pump their money. And so Soros will say to the NAACP, here's $10 million. You've got 2 years. Show me what you're going to do. And they'll go out and do this thing at his bidding, and you get, here's another $5 million for you. Here's this. If you jump through the hoops, you do what we want you to do. There's more money where this came from, and that's how the Democrats, progressives, whatever, have been able to gain the power. Where a Republican will say, "Dave, I'm going to give money to you. What are you going to do for me?" Well, you're just one person, and so anyway, it's just a different philosophy, but. Bottom line, it still ends up being money.
I did a piece in that's on Substack still. It's in the featured section, where I talked about nailing normal and new narratives. And I reported on a $14 million media effort in Tulsa to resurrect for the 140th time, I'm exaggerating there, the bankrupt Oklahoma Eagle. And to fund that with public money, or with this private money, I believe, but also to network with the Tulsa World and Griffin Communications and the Hispanic radio and PBS and KOSU and, basically all the liberals. And their pitch on this was that they wanted to get all this money and resurrect the Oklahoma Eagle again, to carry a message to their community. Now, my question is, have they not been writing for their communities prior to this? Mm-hmm. And if they have, then is it possible their communities aren't buying that leftist BS? And by the way, for $14 million in our little city of Tulsa, Oklahoma, who do they believe is their opponent? That they have to stand against disinformation.
Oh, yeah.
Well, they never mention my name, but they are more than happy to if they would like.
They came in and did a 2-hour interview with me when I was running last year.
Oh, yeah.
Sat there, and they were very pleasant, very wonderful people, down there, nice,
Now, it's a black publication. Was it a black reporter that interviewed you, or a white reporter?
A white reporter.
Interesting.
But the editor, a black editor, who was proud of the fact he used to work for the Washington Post years ago.
Yeah, Jim, I think. What's his name?
He's not a good one. He's some other guy. I can't remember his name right now. Yeah. But he's an older guy, and he was, basically bragging about his credentials, that he was with the Washington Post and he worked for NBC or somebody. Yeah, something. But the actual writer was this younger, well, I say younger, probably 40-ish, white woman.
Yeah.
And anyway, they did
Quite
this,
liberal.
and they were they were very nice, very cordial, interested in my family, my photos, and this, and my background, and this and this. When the article came out, no semblance at all. I mean,
they hate you not because of your color, but
Right.
your ideology.
Right, exactly. And
because you were a conservative and you believe in God and country, and we
right.
can't have that in middle America.
Yeah, I want to throw out another thought.
But let me just finish up on his deal. But it's exactly what you're saying, that all that money has been thrown their way to keep the community in their place or going in the direction they want to go to. And it's the same with all these others.
It's sad.
But it is sad. The Hispanic community, Hispanic radio, Hispanic newspapers, the money is going in, whereas Republicans feel like they want to give money to the candidate, and they'd be better off if they could, again, for lack of a
give
better
it to the media. Buy media.
Media.
Now,
I wanted to finish this thought on the whole issue of what motivates media, state media, local media. Remember the story from September of 2021 about all the hospitals and emergency rooms that are full of ivermectin poisoning patients. And it was Caitlin Ogle, the Ogle family, KFOR, Oklahoma City. They're in Oklahoma City, but this is happening in the deep woods where the backwards conservatives are, that they're all poisoned with ivermectin. And then, what do you know? I think it was Rolling Stones picked it up and some other global media. It was so sensationalized.
Yeah.
It got debunked, except that Caitlin Ogle still will not retract it.
Oh, she's.
And here's why I think this is a theory, folks. I think this was just straight up journalistic prostitution. She was paid money to advance a narrative. And it's the only thing that makes sense to me. I mean, there are reasons why you won't see Channel 6 here in Tulsa report on all the gambling addiction crisis. They get too much advertising from the casinos. I think this is, David, you may say there's always been a certain level of prostitution, things you won't write about because the owner of the newspaper say, hey, they advertise with us. I'm throwing that out there. What do you guys say?
Well, there is an old line in the newspaper business that if your publisher trips on a crack in the sidewalk, the agenda for the paper for the next 60 days is public infrastructure and repairing sidewalks. I don't know. I try not to talk about things that are not public issues. But we have in Tulsa a real challenge. And, well, let me step broader first. Radio has challenges. Podcasting, like we're doing now, is on the rise. Traditional radio, is not on the rise. Yeah. However, we have an opportunity in Tulsa, and I'm not sure it will be robustly taken to heart, but I hope so. And that is that Cox Media Group has sold 4 of its stations, and I believe that sale is in process. The FCC has to approve it, but Dr. Robert Zellner has purchased those 4. And in those 4, the key one that I'm interested in is KRMG, AM 740 and FM 102.3.
Yeah. And what about Fox 23?
That was sold to somebody else. That's not the same Cox Media
just a radio.
Group.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just Cox Radio Group, or Cox Media Group had 4 stations, 95.5, 96.5, 102.3, and KRMG, if I remember correctly. But I've slept since I looked over those details. But if Robert Zellner And I know his people, or his, at least the number one person that's heading up the radio effort. And they're good people. They're quality people. And they are, I believe, aware that we do not, in Tulsa, we are the largest city that I have found in the nation without a call-in talk show.
Yeah.
We have no place where the silo of the left can hear the silo of the right back and forth. We're standing in rooms surrounded by mirrors and then step out occasionally and are surprised that everybody doesn't agree with our perspectives. Mm-hmm. Now, this is, and I think that all of media should take, and we mentioned him earlier, Greg Gutfeld. Now, I don't agree with all of his humor. I think some of it is blue to the point it's painful. But nevertheless, that comedy has made his show the top show in that hour. Right. It's you get a laugh before you go to sleep. Kind of program that Johnny Carson used to do with grace and style. Absolutely. And Greg Gutfeld has no grace or style, but he has fun. Mm-hmm. So I can kind of give him that. Yeah. But we have to be mindful that news is entertainment as well. Right. We cannot badger people. We cannot hit them over the head. We've got to encourage them to do the right thing, but also we've got to give them enough space so they themselves can figure out what is the right thing.
Yeah. Hey, I hate to take us away from local and so forth issue, but the big news of the week, of course, was Putin visiting the former Russian territory of Alaska. It's interesting that he chose Alaska to do it, and it makes sense in a couple of ways. It's probably halfway, for
makes
each
a lot of sense.
Yeah, each one of them to meet there. But I'm wondering if he wasn't kind of, sending a signal that this used to be Russian territory, and we ended up.
No, I don't believe. Well, Putin is a former member of the KGB. Mm-hmm. If his mouth is moving, he is lying to you. He wants to rob you. He wants to kill you. He wants to conquer. That is what the KBG and the communists do. Now, we have forgotten that. In fact, I love the fact that my granddaughter, God love her, at 25, told me, well, no, communists ended when the wall went down. No, it didn't. They went out from their communist meetings. They changed into their business suits and walked back in and began meeting again. Same people, different outfits. Yeah. So for the first time since World War II, by force, the boundaries of nations changed, but it didn't begin with Putin in Ukraine. Mm-hmm. He did the same thing that we didn't say anything about in the country of Georgia. Yeah. And that he, and this is what you have to remember about communists. If you let them have a baby step, the next step is more giant. Mm-hmm. They keep going. Yep. They are relentless in this because they believe only by collapsing Western civilization can they build the undefined and never articulated utopia that they claim they're going to build. This is like the World Economic Forum that declares you will own nothing and you will be happy. Mm-hmm. No, that's not the way to go. Individual liberty, individual determination, self-determination, freedom is what makes America prosperous. It is what has driven the prosperity of Western civilization. And if you're not on board with that, please go move somewhere else. China would be a great place, and see how much you like it, especially during a pandemic, which their military started. We cannot go down that path. And yet, this morning, a few hours ago, I had a chance to listen to Representative Kevin Hern. Mm-hmm. And he made a compelling case that China is not something we can take lightly. Mm-hmm. While Russia may be an overrated gas station because of their oil resources, their economy is collapsing. They have killed 100,000 people
of their own.
This year, and they're now killing North Koreans and whoever else they can drag and throw in as cannon fodder. Mm-hmm. So. That's an issue, but that should be an issue that NATO takes care of. NATO should take the lead. That's why Trump is pushing NATO to raise their level of support for the organization to 5%.
Yeah,
because we can sell you the armaments, we can do all of that for you, but it needs to go through NATO because NATO is really the concern, and America needs to focus on our peer enemy, which is not Russia any longer. Our peer opponent is communist China.
Yeah, okay, that sounds good, but the clear and present danger right now is still Russia. And we do not
to America.
Well,
thank you.
Well, hold on. Here's the problem. Okay, if we give ground and Russia wins in Europe, okay, then we lose our allies that we will need when we're taking on the bigger one, the Chinese. See, it's too easy to say. What I'm saying, you cannot ignore Europe. You cannot ignore Russia. So what Trump is doing, he's not forgotten about China. It's not saying we're forgetting about China because we're trying to deal with Russia. He's trying to quell that, put it to sleep, at least because it's not going to be the end. Okay. So whatever happens, he wants to do that so that he doesn't have to worry about it anymore. He's not looking over his back here when he's trying to deal with Taiwan and the Chinese.
I may not have been as clear as I would have liked to be because yes, we need to solve the war in Ukraine.
Right.
And it needs to be resolved because death is occurring daily. And Ukraine is suffering greatly.
Right, but they won't give up. But they won't quit.
Yeah, I know. They are incredible warriors, and they're not going to stop. And as in my humble opinion, if it's ever been humble, it was that Russia should be removed from the Crimea and every bit of land that they have taken.
That's not going to happen.
But it's not going to happen.
Exactly.
So what I am saying is that a strengthening of NATO to address their own war on their own continent they should be the leader.
Right.
That's in their interest. Right. They should be the leader of that.
Okay, here's the thing. You said NATO in third person, they.
Well, we are also NATO.
See, and that's the thing. I think what's happening is we're getting mission creep with NATO. And there's a lot of people who think, this is what's bothering Putin is we said we weren't going to expand eastward and we did.
Right.
And I would just as soon see NATO replaced with something more Eurocentric that doesn't put us on the line for everything.
The East Atlantic, East Atlantic Treaty Organization or something. Yeah.
Well, the European Union has talked about developing their own armed forces. I don't think that's good. because I think that is more the death throes of the European Union trying to hold on to power, because many of their countries are moving to a more conservative and populist, if not Trump-like stand. And the world order bureaucrats, and keep in mind, the European Union was designed to competitively screw America.
Yeah.
And not just compete, but abuse and harm America. Now, we've been polite about some of this for a long time.
Well, Obama, the Democrats have.
But
Obama and the Biden administration. Yeah.
But Trump gathered the strength and went after tariffs to reorganize. We should have never let China into the World Trade Organization.
Yeah.
They were a third world country.
I agree.
And given, I mean, how it. Sorry, while I go on a little bit of a rant here, China and India, as a result of the caste system, essentially uses slave labor to produce their products. So when you buy something from China, understand a child may have done it and may have been threatened with death to do so, and may have been harmed, or their parents may have been harmed. You are buying the products of slaves.
Yeah.
And the NBA's tennis shoes
Nike.
LeBron's, and
It's like blood diamonds, right?
The Hollywood movies funded by the Great Wall of China and other kinds of crappy stuff. Sorry. How can a capitalist society expect to compete with slave labor?
All right, I'm going to be very controversial again.
Here we go.
As I have been already with you guys. Okay.
I thought you were shy and innocent.
That, as horrible as it is, it's a national problem. Okay. And if China has decided to run their country with slave labor, child labor, whatever, if Russia and Putin want to treat their people how they're treating them, that's their business. It will take care of itself eventually. And the way it takes care of itself is the way Trump, I believe, his approach. The stronger America is, the stronger Europe is, those eyes in the third world or other, second world, third world will look and want it, and eventually revolutions will take back over. Eastern Europe, one of the most prosperous and strongest countries right now is Hungary. And Hungary, he has made everything. He's not allowing any
Viktor Orban.
He is not allowing just free immigration. He wants to keep Hungary Hungarian. He wants to, Germany, on the other hand, is gone the other way, and it's a complete mess. The people are miserable, but the socialist mentality of Germany is mixed with this German pride that we're proud enough and we're such a great people, we can make this socialism work. Well, sorry, it's not going to work.
You just hate Germans, don't you?
Yes. No, just kidding. It's my people, and it makes me mad. It ticks me off for a country that has so much promise.
Yeah.
That they're so stupid. I mean, it just, it'd be like my cousins and my brothers and my sisters that I just want. But anyway.
Let me first agree before I disagree.
Okay.
First of all, I agree. We should not be in the business of changing country leadership.
Right.
Every country ought to have a chance to corrupt and befoul itself any way it wants to corrupt and befoul itself. And I don't ever think we ought to bomb another country other than distributing copies of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States in their language. Let's throw that out of airplanes.
In an electronic world, we can do it now through the internet, through different things like that.
But what I'm saying here is in China's case, you're ignoring the economics of allowing them as a full legitimate partner of the World Trade Organization has given them benefits that slavery should bar them from. What I'm saying, the economic model, you cannot make communism rich and then expect it to change.
Exactly. But the way Trump is doing it is through truly free trade and equal trade. In other words, you're going to pay 35% tariffs if I'm paying 35% tariffs. He's doing that with Europe. In Europe is digging. I lived in Germany. You did not see an American car over there. You did not see it.
You don't.
Because and yeah, we have a stupid rule. I think we talked about it, Dave, didn't we, before, where there was this company. It was a car dealership in North Carolina. And they were selling Mercedes. And so what they would do, they would send over $2,000 for 2 cars. And so we fell into this thing. We got to take part in it. So it was $1,000 for my wife, $1,000 for me. And we would go to the Mercedes plant in Sindelfingen in Germany, outside of Stuttgart. And we would go to the Mercedes factory, eat at their 5-star. They gave us a food voucher for $100 a piece to eat in this 5-star restaurant or 3-star, whatever the Michelin top thing is. And we would eat in this Mercedes restaurant. And then they would call our name and give each of us our Mercedes. And so we would get the keys and they'd go us through everything the car does, brand new, off the factory conveyor belts or whatever. And so after my wife and I, we would drive them 1 block down the road, turn them into this shipper, and that would ship them to the States. And then meanwhile, we're walking back to our car in the parking lot, an Opal, But then when that car came into America, because it had been driven, it was used, there was a different tariff on that car than on the brand new one that a new dealer would normally do, even though the car was driven a half a mile or a quarter of a mile is all it was ever driven. And yet they could sell it, import as
So you conspired on this scheme.
No, I just
criminal enterprise.
It wasn't criminal. It's totally legal. Everything's legal.
Yeah, it's legal, but it was a loophole that you were exploiting.
Oh yeah, it was a loophole. Yeah, sure. And so anyway, and we do that a couple of, every other month you do it, you make a little bit of money, Sure. But anyway, but the rules are so stupid that America has.
Yeah.
And yet could not import a Cadillac, a Lincoln, a Buick, Chevy, whatever.
Well, and Trump's talked about that. That is the very basis of his tariff reassignment. But remind me, if either of you august political operatives may remember, who was the president that said the business of America is business? Because it was back in the 20s, 30s, maybe. I don't remember. I would have to.
Herbert Hoover?
I could have. No, it wouldn't be Hoover. It was earlier than that.
Harding, Coolidge.
It's something like that. But Trump has really brought that back to us. His team, I have never seen a more intelligent, dedicated, moral group of people than Trump has, extremely competent people that he's assembled in his cabinet.
Yeah.
And with his selections, his trade representatives, his economists, they're all serious people, they are looking at the details. And for the first time in my lifetime, I am fundamentally pleased to be a citizen of a republic, and I am delighted at my representation.
Okay. I want to even go further on that. You remember how the European leaders mocked Trump last winter?
They're not doing it now.
Exactly. I watched the responses over the last 12 to 24 hours. They all respect Trump. And, and he's showing respect to them, too. When he finished his little speech, and it was very short, he says, I've got to go make some phone calls. He did not want to speak to the press until his counterparts in Europe
had a chance to talk with the allies.
That's respect.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And
however,
Zelensky right away says, hey, can I fly into DC? We need to talk person to person. And that's fast.
I would suggest that the reason why he has great respect is because he blew up Iran's nuclear weapon.
That'll work.
Just about, he got into their airspace, destroyed their weapons, and out of their airspace without being detected, without being challenged, and we took out.
It was specific.
It was specific. We're hi there. We know where you live and how deep you have buried your little rabbit hole, and we have weapons designed to do this.
Yeah.
So the problem is the auto pen cabal that is known as the Biden administration were ideologues that were intent on destroying America.
Yeah.
We survived that.
Yeah.
Barely. But getting our country reestablished with common sense and common culture to compete in the world fairly but aggressively, to not allow people to cheat us. These kinds of things, we've been schmucks for a long time. People have taken advantage of it. And now America is building that back. Now we're actually exercising power that is competent and coalescing around the very critical needs of the world. And Trump isn't just fixing America. He is fixing the world.
Well, he sees that you can't fix America unless you fix certain things over there. And vice versa.
This is it right there. Trump wants prosperity, global prosperity. And the biggest enemy to that is war.
Right.
And he's trying to stop wars because you get free flow of trade. You get people building instead of destroying. The only people who get screwed over is the military industrial complex.
Yeah, who did he just make the peace between? It was Azerbaijan and
in Armenia. And then you also had the Congo and Rwanda. Right. You've had Pakistan and India. There's like 6 or 7 in the last 6 months.
It's funny, about a year ago, there was a speech that the either the former or current prime minister of Kenya gave. I don't know if you saw it, but he was basically saying Donald Trump is very selfish for America, and he should be. And he's exactly right. That's what he should be doing, because we need to look to the needs of Kenya. Uganda needs to look. Once you take care of your business, then let that bleed over. You become prosperous. You show the example. Then the others can follow suit. But the way it's been, it goes back into the 50s, the whole thing in South America, sending the CIA. We're trying to dismantle governments and we're trying to do things, covertly, that don't need to be done. In other words, if we show this is prosperity, this is America, and Europe is Europe, and they're prospering, and Hungary's prospering, then all of a sudden the Brazilians will figure it out, and they'll rebel and overthrow their government because they want to emulate. They want what we have. Yeah. And if enough countries start changing, being prosperous, if Europe, the European Union is prosperous again, then the rest of that continent can start emulating that. It happens in the East. It happens everywhere. So this is Trump's philosophy, that if every country takes care of its business and looks out for its own interests and deals fairly, deals rightly, it will transform the world without any need for war.
So in this very show, during this incredibly insightful hour, You have contradicted yourself because now you're saying that money or prosperity is not the root of all evil, but the path to peace through the world.
I thought I said money was. You're the one who said it was power. I was saying money.
No. Now, you were saying money is the root of all evil.
Money is the driver in all of this. It can be. No, it's the love of money that's the root of all evil.
Okay.
Not money. It's the love of money that's the root of all evil. So
how long are we going to keep talking to these fine folks that are patient enough?
Well, we have lately been going on.
I've got a couple of stories here.
Yeah, go ahead. Let's please get to
just a little bit of sports. We found out today that Michigan's football team, which 2 years ago was national champion,
cheated.
Yes. And the NCAA evidently went kind of light on the current program.
Well, see, that's what bothers me.
But what they said is we're trying to not punish the current students who are not cheating for what the coach and the past players did.
Yeah, but the only way to do it is to punish. Sometimes it's sadly you have to punish the innocent to keep from the innocent turning back in.
I agree, and they did put sanctions on Jim Harbaugh, the coach. But I don't know. What do you do?
He's with San Diego.
I know.
He's a professional coach.
I know. This has happened how many times? Kansas under Coach Brown. Who's the Seattle Seahawks coach that was at USC?
Yeah, right. I can see
with
him.
Reggie Bush.
My wife hates him, but
was it Reggie Bush?
Reggie Bush. Yeah.
And then now was it Georgia under Cam Newton?
No, Auburn.
Auburn. Did they not vacate that championship officially?
No, they never
See,
did.
that's to me what you got to do.
Yeah,
is
sure.
to vacate that, and they haven't done that to Michigan.
The only championship that's been vacated, as I understand, was USC because of Reggie Bush.
And why?
And they took away his Heisman Trophy.
Yeah, and why? But that's a separate.
But they
group.
shouldn't.
Heisman is a separate.
Right,
club
but even they did make him vacate, but they shouldn't have. They need to. Okay. Well, I think they may have given it back, and they should, because now they're paying people a lot more than Reggie Bush made back in. All
right, I got another thing here.
So David, if you would need to leave or anything, because this is the other side.
He's going to want to hear this story.
Okay.
All right. We now have our first female Major League Baseball umpire, and Babylon B loves it. And weighed in and says, there's good things this, and I'll just list you the top 5. All players will get juice boxes after the game, regardless if they win or lose. Players will stop using profanity because a lady is present. Women are never wrong. So all the plays, we won't even need replay anymore. This is always right. Managers won't even bother arguing with the umpire since they know they're always wrong. And then the number one reason is they are much better at sweeping off home plate.
As the only single man at the table, I want to criticize you for
disparaging
women. But I do have to ask if you've heard in these little side bits of news about the Oklahoma scarecrow that won a national award. Yes, it was recognized for being outstanding in its field.
There you go. Very good. Yeah. On women's sports, by the way, there is, looks like we're going to have a professional women's softball league. They currently have some teams playing exhibition, but they don't list them as, a certain territory, like the Oklahoma team or the Missouri team. So evidently they're being well received. They have been playing. They played in Norman, I guess, this summer. So some good things happening on that.
WNBA is picking up in attendance. There was a game the other night. It wasn't the Fever, but there were 11,000 people there.
Yeah.
At the game. So it is slowly. I mean, Caitlin Clark it's Caitlin Clark that drew people in.
Was she back?
No. But I'm saying initially that's what got the attention to the WNBA. And I'll be honest, I like watching the WNBA because the reason I would like it is because they play basketball like it used to be played. In other words, now with the NBA, if you cross the midcourt and they throw it out.
They don't play defense at all.
No, it's ridiculous.
The women gouge and pull hair though.
Yeah, well, yeah, but it's either shoot from half court or when a guy drives in for a slam dunk, everybody just backs up and lets him do it.
I know.
It's not the physical game where, like you said, you want to go to a WNBA game and a fight breaks out. It's like these women are vicious to each other.
Gouging eyes.
Well, that was that one thing with Caitlin Clark, but there's a whole lot of tripping, pushing, elbowing,
pulling wigs off.
That's so funny. Pulling wigs off. So WNBA is
Sonia Cunningham. Is that her name?
No. What is her name?
I thought it was
Sophie.
Sophie
Cunningham.
Yeah. She's really shown a lot of character.
Okay.
Yeah. No,
Oh, you serious?
She called out racism, and I think she's right.
You mean reverse racism? She called out reverse racism.
It's still racism.
No, I know, but you've got to be clear today so people understand. I know, you're right. Yeah. Because now, right, and it's true. That's a good point. It's true. It's not only that, heterosexualism.
Yeah, it's black, lesbian, urban racism.
Right.
Yep.
And
I refuse to comment on the grounds it may incriminate me. Yeah. Should I do so?
Yeah.
Okay.
But might affect your dating life, right?
I love diverse people. Mm-hmm. I love intelligent people.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But angry, vicious, mean people, bullies, I tend to want to push their button.
Right. And that's what's happening with Sophie Cunningham and what's her name? Chelsea. I can't remember what the other girl's name is.
Well, Eddie.
But they're enforcers. I mean, they don't. This girl, Sophie Cunningham in particular, she doesn't care. She'll take you
in a
down.
Headlock and down in the lane. You're a lot like Rush Limbaugh. He loved the women's movement, especially when watching from behind. That's what he said. So
I would add an amen.
I distanced myself from the prior remarks.
You're the one who said you love watching it.
Well, I like their play. I like watching because I like basketball, and they still play old school basketball.
Yes.
And it gets physical. These girls will start yelling and pushing each other. The only thing is they have to upgrade their officiating. The referees
I agree.
are horrible. They're the worst.
Women referees, yes.
Well, even the guys. Some of the guys are just as bad or worse than the women. If you got a good woman referee, there's no reason a woman referee can't be a great referee. Mm-hmm. But some of the ones they pick or the guys too, they'll just stand there and watch. And the good news is they have replay.
Yeah.
So they allow replay, and you can challenge.
See, they didn't use it on the eye gouging, and that's why Sophie did a headlock and slammed to the ground. She's like, they're not going to call it. I'm calling it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just looking forward to the Patty Glasgow's next run at a national championship for OU women's softball.
Yeah. See,
I love watching softball.
You're like me. The passion.
Yeah. I'm not all that excited about women's basketball, but I love women's softball.
I agree.
The passion that they play, as you mentioned, but also their skills. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is a very well-developed sport. And Patty is an incredible coach. She's got a great pitching coach. I mean, she's got a great staff. She has, and she's going to be in charge of the U.S. Olympic team. She's going to be coaching them in LA when they gather there. So, or actually, they're going to be playing part of the Olympic Games in Oklahoma.
Probably, yeah.
Because the softball park in Oklahoma City, as well as OU's new park, Love Field down there. So you have two excellent large facilities that can, and we have an audience that loves softball.
Oh, this is big. See, I did not know that.
Oh, yeah.
So literally part of the Olympics will
be held in Oklahoma.
Several states away.
Yes.
That is really big news.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
But I am so excited this year. Last year, there was so much pressure because they had won 4 national championships in a row, which is unheard of in any sport.
It is.
But that was a lot of pressure to put on essentially a new team because they had graduated some significant seniors out of that last year's team. So this year, those ladies coming back, and I love the program because they are not just about the wins; they are about the personalities of the girls and helping them mature into the kind of women they want to be. In their lives, and they pray together, they work together, they fight together, they win together, and I love watching them. Just absolutely
the class,
incredible.
Because I listened to her last interview after losing the semifinal. Chris Plank, she says, "I really wasn't expecting us to make the World Series this year."
Yeah,
she says this was our rebuilding year, in a huge rebuilding year. But to make it into the World Series and then to make it to the semis, she says, these girls impressed me. This is them. This wasn't me.
Oh, yeah. And if you thought they were good last year, you ain't seen nothing.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, they're going to be great this year.
Good.
I also think the OU football team is going to be a heck of a lot better than the SEC or any pundit has seen. And I realize that for the first time, the coaches poll did not include OU in the top 25. I think the team is going to remember that until they get to the playoffs.
There's a scandal involving the guy who's picked to be our starting quarterback.
Well, yes, but that was those were texting jokes. There was no evidence.
That's what he says.
There was no evidence. There is no evidence.
There you go.
So I don't care what people say.
What the controversy is.
Yeah. So, I've got the Venmo app. I don't know if you've got,
I don't use it.
And some people literally, you didn't ask to see it, but it's showing, Tommy paid Billy for half the pizza, and it's like, why would you do this? Well, evidently, unless you turn it off, it's on. And this kid who, when he was at another college,
Washington State,
while he was a college player, was saying, for gambling, for sports gambling. He literally says for sports gambling. And depends how much of a joke the NCAA thinks it is, but I think it's
what I think is very bizarre is this would have never come up if they weren't scared and petrified of the OU football excellence.
That's true. That absolutely
that became the issue.
There's two things here, though. One is that ticks me off so badly is the NCAA picks and chooses.
Selective enforcement.
Exactly. That's true. What you were talking about with Michigan, all of a sudden they want to. But OU, there was an example a couple of years ago, Georgia Tech, when my son was director of operations. One of their guys who was finished, some company sent him a free outfit. He never took it, never wore it. It was still hanging there in the locker room. And he never accepted anything. Yet they were sanctioned and punished for that. At the same time, when Alabama and Georgia and others have much greater crimes or violations, and they just look the other way.
Yeah.
And so what it is, it's essentially about money. Again, back to money. And what happened, Michigan, Ohio State, and then you've got USC. And then in the SEC, you got Alabama, Georgia, LSU. Those three teams can do about anything they want to do, and they want to look the other way.
Can I give you a little joke line on Alabama? The Alabama softball coach, when OU was getting ready to play him, and of course, OU won.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
But the coach before the game was talking about Alabama is where legends are made. And I got to thinking about that. A legend is not a champion. A legend is part bullshit and part promotion And maybe that's why the SEC has such a good reputation, because of their relationship with ESPN, and only because of that.
It's money. And you look at it, what's driving all this? It's the TV money, which is coming from TV revenue, which is coming from the advertisers, which the biggest new advertiser is sports gambling. And they're saying, shame on you for actually buying the product we're selling.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that should not be allowed, I don't think, is that ESPN has part ownership in the SEC.
Yeah.
And so ESPN is pretty much.
Do you mean they're in bed with each other?
That's exactly. And so in their big thing, they all love the old school, Michigan, Ohio State, and so the SEC, not the ACC and the Big 12 are just kind of allowed to be in the Big Four, okay, or Big Five. I guess there's Big Five now, but it's really messed up. I mean, I don't understand. Okay, here's what I don't understand: how the NCAA essentially is a monopoly. It's a monopoly that has not been broken up. You used to have the NCAA tournament, and you still have the NIT, but the NIT, nobody watches it. It's really nothing. It's on the NCAA tournament, right? And so to have the NCAA, and they're making millions. I mean, they are making money hand over fist, money again. And but there's really no governmental organization monitors them. And they essentially have a monopoly, and it should be broken up into a competing organization to be able to check all of this stuff out. So that's why you can have the SEC when it comes to recruiting. In fact, everybody was so mad, including OU. All the OU fans were totally ticked off because Texas Tech ended up getting and paying $1 million to this pitcher. They've got Pat Mahomes and some other Cody Campbell, a former player for Tech guy. He's an oil millionaire now, and they're able to pay this girl $1 million a year. And so all of a sudden, that's a shame. You should not be able to do that. And look at what they're doing. Well, you've been doing it back before it was legal. So why are you whining and crying now? And so that's the problem. And that's one reason OU joined the SEC, to remove a lot of this scrutiny and a lot of this unfair policing from themselves, because now as an SEC member, they join that club and everybody's going to back off and lighten up on them, because now they're part of the country club. They're part of the big boys club. And so really
I don't think anybody's ever going to back off of OU. I think everybody hates OU and OU hates everybody. We're here to compete on the field. We're here to win. We're here to pack their lunch, eat it ourselves,
that's what
and send them home hungry.
That's what they all do. Some of them just happen to do it in a different way than others do. And you know what they're really pushing for, not OU, but in general, the big media giants. They want a super league, basically with 2 divisions, okay? And one would be the Big Ten, the Big IG, and then the SEC. That's what they would really like. 20-some teams in each one, and then those are the 2 teams that end up fighting it out. And they have it'd be like, it's like the NFL with the AFC and the NFC, except you have the SEC, which is broken up into divisions, and then you have the Big Ten broken up into divisions. And that's all they want, because then they can pump all their money into those games and make millions and billions or more. That root of all evil.
The people I'm glad are no longer the Big 12 is Texas. They destroyed the Big 12.
They did.
With
way back.
Longhorn Network.
Right.
I was having lunch one day driving to Minnesota, ran across some guys from Nebraska coming back from the Vikings game. And we were talking about a bunch of, I said, is there any way Nebraska would come back to the Big 12? No. I said, what was the real? He says, it was the Longhorn Network.
Yeah, Missouri too.
Yeah.
Missouri and Nebraska left,
And then Colorado shortly after.
Colorado, yeah.
You know, and it's and I hope it happens to the SEC.
Gentlemen, just remember, no matter how much they brag, Oklahoma owns Texas.
Yeah.
That's how we got the panhandle.
That's right.
South Oklahoma.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, we got the panhandle because they couldn't be a slave state that far north. So we got the panhandle. But the other thing, if you have any doubt that Oklahoma is on top of Texas, just put a map up to the window and look. Oklahoma is above Texas. We have always been above Texas. We're better looking, more studly, and incredibly just finer people.
We even ended slavery after they did.
They screwed us over. They screwed us over on a bridge, and Governor Murray went to war. And as soon as he got within eyesight of the bridge, the Rangers tucked and ran. That's the closest we came to a real war with them. They ran away. And
by the way,
paid their debts.
The preceding statements were delivered in pure comedy and for humor.
Yeah, right. All right. Hey, listen, I think we're done.
Yeah.
Our work is done here.
David, it's good seeing you this summer.
Thanks. And everybody out there.
One more time.
Right. David Arnett at.
Well, it's arnett.substack.com or tulsatoday.com.
There we go.
Or you can pretty much put David Arnett in Google and those things will come up.
And to write David Arnett's fresh black coffee at gmail.com.
Right.
So,
right.
All right. God bless everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. And we will look forward to talking to you next week.